Joining us now to analyze today's headlines is Rahul Mahajan. He's a sociologist and author of Full Spectrum Dominance, U.S. Power in Iraq and Beyond. Hi, Rahul. Privacy advocates are celebrating a small victory after 3 key provisions of the USA Patriot Act expired yesterday because Congress was unable to renew them. Republican Senator Rand Paul successfully blocked the renewal of Section 215 in particular, which provides a legal justification for the National Security Agency to sweep up telephone and other mass communications. But the victory is only temporary, as Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell promised to push a House-passed bill called the USA Freedom Act either tomorrow or Wednesday. Activist groups like Fight for the Future signed on to a statement saying, quote, "The USA Freedom Act is a mass surveillance bill dressed up as a reform bill, and its passage will authorize unconstitutional surveillance practices." The political drama played out on Capitol Hill 2 years after whistleblower Edward Snowden alerted the public to the once secret program of surveillance. The Justice Department will likely help craft a legal justification for the temporary lapse in legal authority to spy. Well, Rahul, it appears as though the victory for privacy rights is only symbolic. Should we be surprised that a Republican libertarian has turned out to be the defender of people's rights?
Not really. I mean, I think that, the dominant sort of political divide in the United States in the past few years has been over, does government ever do anything good for you, or should government be opposed on principle? And even though it's been talked about in terms of should government have put any curbs on the rich, and should government do anything to help the poor, since it's been the Republican agenda to oppose those things, when Democrats and when most of the liberal left sort of support the role of government in these things, they have also, in a way, undercut their ability to think critically about things like the NSA's mass surveillance. And of course, that it wasn't helped by the fact that really before Snowden there was virtually no talk about it that got out into the public sphere. So it's not surprising that it was Rand Paul who sort of carried the banner of resistance in Congress, and it is actually heartening that that these minor changes have been made, and if the USA Freedom Act is passed, there will be at least some minimal limits compared to what the NSA does today. The details will actually be have to be worked out.
And then Oman is hosting talks between Yemen's Houthi rebels and U.S. officials in a bid toward ending the U.S.-backed Saudi Arabian war against the Persian Gulf's poorest country. Of the 6-member Gulf Cooperation Council, Oman is the only nation that did not join the war coalition against Yemen, while the U.S. and Saudi Arabia want Houthi Shia rebels to accept President Hadi, who was driven out. The Houthis want a ceasefire before any formal peace talks. Fears of Iranian influence drive these moves, even as the Oman talks commenced. Airstrikes continue to bombard Yemen today. About 2,000 people have been killed since the bombing first began some months ago, and the 25 million residents of Yemen remain in danger of being cut off from emergency supplies. The Washington Post recently reported an added complication that at least 4 Americans have been taken hostage by the Houthis. Rahul, do these talks offer a glimmer of hope toward ending the Yemen war?
Well, Sonali, you and I are both old enough to remember back when wars ended, but it seems like since 9/11 we've been in a new paradigm where it's quite possible to start wars, or in some cases to not start wars, but once they're started, they don't seem to end. I mean, of course, the wars the United States directly started have not ended. The wars started by the Arab uprisings in 2011. The only one that you might claim has kind of ended was the uprising in Bahrain, which was, on one side it was unarmed and peaceful, and on the other side there was a massive Saudi invasion that crushed it. But Bahrain is a very small country with a small population, and Yemen is large and it has a lot of hostile terrain. So I don't see either the Houthis or Al-Qaeda in Yemen or the Saudi invasion anytime soon, unless there is somehow, once again, we go back 20 years in time.
And finally, the Guardian newspaper in Britain has just concluded a major investigative report on policing in the United States. The report, entitled The Counted, found that of the nearly 500 people killed by U.S. police this year alone, more than a fifth were unarmed. It also found that black people killed by cops were twice as likely to be unarmed than whites. Latinos were a third more likely to be unarmed. African Americans, who comprise 13% of the nation's population, were 30% of this year's police victims. Overall, people of color are half of those killed by cops. 95% of those killed were men. Members of the Los Angeles Police Department killed 10 people this year, the highest number of any department nationwide, and California had 74 deaths, the highest number of police killings of any state. The Guardian intends to continue to update its interactive database of U.S. police killings as the numbers rack up. Rahul, how important is such research, particularly as it enables the public to easily dig into these numbers themselves?
It's extremely important, and it's a great step by the Guardian, and it's really a shame that there is no comprehensive collection of these statistics mandated by the government. But we need a lot more detail than is going to be easy to dig up by, say, the Guardian or by reporters themselves. We need to know much more about the character of the specific incidents. We need more of a sense of the denominator of how many similar kinds of incidents happen without violence happening before we can truly start using this data to get a real picture of how police deal with people.
Rahul, thanks as always for joining us. We'll talk to you next week.
See you then.
Rahul Mahajan is a sociologist and author of Full Spectrum Dominance, U.S. Power in Iraq and Beyond. We'll be right back.